Welcome to the Verdict Zone. Today, we confront a moral earthquake, a story we recalling the ultimate test of loyalty. This is the story of a man whose wife's infidelity destroyed their marriage, only for her to then face a life-threatening illness. This has forced him into an impossible choice between his own healing and an obligation to the very person who shattered his trust. He had what he describes as a nearly perfect marriage. For over a decade, they were more than just partners. They were best friends. They built a life together, shared dreams, and believed they had an unbreakable bond. That illusion was shattered one evening when she returned from a girls' trip. The confession didn't come from a place of guilt, but from a place of fear. One of her friends, aware of the truth, had threatened to expose her. She admitted to a sustained affair, not a one-time mistake, but a calculated, ongoing deception that had been happening for months. For him, the world tilted on its axis. The woman he loved, the life he knew, it was all a lie. The betrayal was so profound, he felt physically sick. It wasn't just the act itself, but the web of deceit that surrounded it. The secret phone calls, the fabricated stories, the planned betrayals. He describes it as a death. The death of his marriage, the death of the woman he thought he knew, and the death of the man he was. He packed a bag that night, walked out the door, and filed for divorce. He needed to sever the tie, to begin the long, agonizing process of healing from a wound so deep it felt fatal. Just as the legal proceedings were getting underway, the second shockwave hit. A phone call, not from her, but from her mother. His estranged wife had received a devastating medical diagnosis, a life-threatening illness that would require aggressive, draining treatment. The prognosis was uncertain. Suddenly, the narrative shifted. The woman who had been the villain in his story was now a victim in another. Her family began to plead with him. They begged him to be by her side, to provide emotional support, to be her rock during the terrifying journey ahead. Her texts, once filled with hollow apologies, were now desperate cries for his presence. This is where we find ourselves, in the heart of a profound ethical dilemma. We have the betrayal on one side, the broken trust, the planned deceit, the fact that remorse only came when she was about to be caught. On the other side, we have the diagnosis, her vulnerability, her fear, the shared history and past love that once defined their lives. Society often pressures us in these moments to be the bigger person, to set aside our own pain, our own needs, and rush to the side of those who have hurt us, especially when they are suffering. But is that compassion, or is it a form of self-abandonment? Are we demanding martyrdom from the betrayed? Let's analyze his stance. He has offered to help financially. He will ensure she has the best medical care possible. He will contribute to any costs not covered by insurance. This is an act of basic human compassion for someone he once loved, but he has drawn a firm line at emotional and physical presence. He argues that showing up, holding her hand, and pretending to be her supportive husband would be a performance. It would be a lie. He believes that to truly heal, he cannot place himself back into the source of his trauma. To do so would not only be dishonest to her, but a betrayal of himself. It would suggest that her actions had no lasting consequences, that the trust she obliterated can simply be patched over in the face of a crisis. To understand this better, we spoke with Dr. Annabelle Reed, a therapist specializing in infidelity trauma. She explains that, for the betrayed partner, establishing boundaries is not an act of cruelty, it's an act of survival. The recovery process requires creating a safe space, both physically and emotionally, away from the person who caused the harm. Re-engaging in an intimate, supportive role can trigger intense psychological distress, making healing impossible. It's like asking someone to treat a burn victim by holding them next to a fire. Dr. Reed emphasizes that his refusal to be her emotional caregiver isn't a lack of empathy. It's a necessary act of self-preservation. We also consulted with Marcus Thorne, an ethicist who studies moral obligations. He helps us distinguish between the general compassion we might owe any fellow human in crisis and the specific, intimate duties of a marital partnership. Thorne argues that marriage is a contract built on mutual trust and fidelity. When one party deliberately and repeatedly violates that contract, they effectively dissolve the unique obligations that come with it. His wife's actions, Thorne suggests, ended the marital bond, while he may still feel a human connection. The role of husband, and the duties that come with it, are no longer his to perform. He is no longer her primary emotional support system because she chose to sever that connection. The tragedy of her illness, while immense, does not retroactively rewrite the terms of their ended relationship. This forces us to confront an agonizing question. Does a profound personal crisis, like a life-threatening illness, nullify the consequences of a prior, deliberate betrayal? Does her suffering erase his, or does true compassion sometimes mean honoring the finality of a broken bond, even in the face of immense suffering? Is it possible that the most compassionate thing he can do for both of them is to maintain his distance, allowing them both to face their separate battles with honesty and dignity, rather than performing a role in a play that has already ended? There are no easy answers here. His decision to close that door, to protect his own healing, is a boundary that many would call cold, but others would call necessary. These are the judgments that define our character. If you believe in exploring the complex limits of forgiveness, obligation, and self-preservation, you need to be part of this community. Subscribe and hit the notification bell for the verdict zone. We fearlessly examine the dilemmas that don't have easy answers, because that's where true understanding begins. Find where you stand. Subscribe now.